Our next segment of the agenda is our information items, and we'll start this evening with an update on today's activities at the Michigan Supreme Court. We have, of course, our case that we've talked a little bit about earlier, but we'll have a more thorough update from Dr. Swift. This is Michigan gun owners versus the Ann Arbor Public Schools. Dr. Swift.
Thank you, Madam President, and trustees and members of the community. It was our great honor to be at the Hall of Justice today for the oral arguments at the Michigan Supreme Court. I want to thank the trustees for their courage and for their ongoing support for this endeavor. It has been a 3-year process, and I also want to reach back and thank our 3 trustees who were with us in 2015, who also led on this endeavor. One of them was just in that photo there, was Donna Lisinski, who is now a representative in the House. And secondly, President Deb Mexicott at that time. And then thirdly, Trustee Andy Thomas. I want to thank the trustees who were able to join us today, Trustee Baskett, Trustee Kelly, and Trustee Manley. I also want to thank our students. We had a great group of students with us. Our high school students were Sarah, Kate, Henry, and Marquand. And here they are doing an interview with me. I just want to share that those students are a part of Washtenaw County Youth Initiative, and they also contributed writing to one of the amicus briefs that was submitted to the court, the Engage 18 amicus brief. These students actually wrote parts of that brief. I think that's very exciting. And then the elementary students next to me there are Isabel and Graham. Isabel is at Eberwhite Elementary, and Graham, as you can see by his proud shirt, is a Slauson Golden Bear. Graham has an essay due on Thursday about this experience, and he's got it all under control. So I was going to offer to help him, but I recognized right away that he knew more about it than I did. So I'm really proud that we were joined by students as well as our trustees. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Bill Blaha on the far left there behind Trustees Manley and Baskett, who led the oral arguments, and then our own General Counsel, Mr. David Comsa, and was very proud to have Fred Klein join us as well. We had a number of parents there. And also I want to give a shout out to Moms Demand Action. They have been with us since the very first day of this effort. And also wanted to include, Andrew, if you'll just go back one, that Kate, who is right behind me on the left, and Sarah, who's right behind me there on the right. Those 2 young ladies were actually singing, performing in the choir in March of 2015. So they literally have been involved in this from day one. I do want to be clear on a few points of our work. Because unfortunately, some folks find this to be a political topic. I don't find it to be political at all when we're talking about guns in schools, where children come to learn and staff comes to teach each day. I feel like that is strictly an issue about student safety. But in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, we've been working to ensure student, staff, and parent safety. We enacted the policies back in April of 2015. It was in the summer of 2015 that Michigan gun owners filed suit. And so our process began from that time early in 2015. We clarified our value at that time, and we've held on to it, and that is that we believe that the possession of a gun in school, other than by a sworn officer, runs counter to what we are hardwired to do as educators, and that is to keep our students, our staff, and our families safe, and to ensure a warm, welcoming environment where our students may grow and learn and thrive under the watchful eye of professional educators. We know that in these 3 years, the conversation about guns in schools has only become more urgent and more pressing, and particularly since February 14th, the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, resulting in the death of 14 students and 3 staff members. This has brought the issue even more to the front of our consciousness. I don't know that folks always recognize that our trustees raise their right hand and swear an oath to uphold the Michigan law and to uphold that code, that student code that charges our trustees with the primary responsibility of ensuring safety in every classroom in every school. That's not a kind of thing. That is what you're charged with by law. You're directed to do even before the critical mission of teaching and learning. So I just want to be clear that when it comes to these issues, we are close to our critical mission of caring for children, and there is no middle ground. One of the journalists asked the question today, is there a compromise? I don't think when it comes to children in schools that the compromise should be to compromise their safety. And in fact, if we want to test the idea of a good guy with a gun, perhaps we could begin that exercise in an adult environment, not in a kid environment of a classroom or a school. So we know that safety is the promise we make to our parents, to our community. They bring to us every day their most prized children, and we take very seriously our responsibility to keep the children safe and to provide a supportive and productive environment where our students and staff may do their work and learn and grow each day. So over 3 years, we've defended these school safety policies as they've undergone challenges in the Michigan courts. I will remind folks that these policies have been upheld by the Washtenaw County Circuit Court, Judge Kuhnke, and also by the Court of Appeals. The process continued today with our 3rd challenge, and that was for oral arguments at the Supreme Court level. Amicus briefs have been filed, and you can find those online in support of our Ann Arbor Public Schools position by the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence, the City of Ann Arbor, the Michigan Association of School Boards, and the Michigan Education Association. Also, the one I referred to earlier, the Engage 18, which is a student-led group, also filed an amicus brief. We believe that now more than ever is a time for reason and for wisdom and for prioritizing the safety of our most vulnerable citizens, our children. We know as members of a community who care about our children that guns and children make a frightening, dangerous, and even deadly combination. And in the same way that we as a society have decided that we will protect our courthouses, our houses of legislature, our chambers there, our airports, and other sensitive locations, we've decided we will protect those locations through a prohibition of guns in sensitive settings. It is long past time to place schools at the top of that list of protected and sensitive environments. One of the primary arguments, and I heard it again today, it's a very troubling argument, is that idea that a good guy with a gun can ensure the safety of children in the case of an active shooter situation. That's a very troubling argument, and we have significant evidence that supports that additional weapons inside a school classroom only brings more instability and more risk for everyone involved. Just a couple of quick examples. In Macomb County, while attending an event as a parent at Cheyenne Elementary School. A parent forgot his jacket laying on a chair, and that jacket contained a handgun. Later, a custodian at the school discovered the jacket and the gun left on the stage in the gymnasium. For 5 hours, the gun sat completely unguarded in that elementary school, and fortunately, it was an alert custodian and not a small child who discovered the jacket and the gun many hours later. Second example, in L'Anse Creuse Public Schools, a parent arrived to school one day, discovered an altercation occurring at the school, and the parent, wanting to lend a hand, intervened in the altercation. At one point in the scuffle, a gun belonging to the parent, who was a licensed CPL holder, fell from her holster onto the ground. Certainly a loose gun in the midst of a school altercation in that escalated setting presents a significant risk to the students and to the safety of all those at school. And in fact, it constitutes an outright school emergency. Well-intended people, even those with gun training, are just like everyone else. They're prone to make mistakes. When a parent forgets a jacket or a gun falls out of a pocket, it could cost a child's life. Both of these Michigan parents arrived at school on appropriate business, and both lost control of their weapons while on school property. These aren't national examples. These are examples from just up the road right here at home in Michigan. The presence of weapons in the hands of well-intended parents placed everyone at school at increased risk and posed a significant threat to the safety and security of students, staff, and families. We understand that some may believe that guns in the hand of law-abiding citizens is a good idea, and yet we understand that the evidence points to the contrary, and it highlights the increased instability of introducing weapons into a precious and sacred school environment. So allowing guns in our Michigan schools is an ill-conceived and dangerous solution. Trustees, I want to add one more troubling argument, and then I recognize that you all will want to comment, and I'm sensitive to the time. But I was very troubled today by the argument that simply check the people in at the front desk and it'll be fine. And they called out the example in Clio schools that the parent was well known in the community who carried a gun into the school. I don't believe in any school that we can propose that we would know the intentions of someone walking up to our door carrying a gun. I don't believe that's realistic. And that idea that a known individual is therefore a safe individual is above all a troubling argument. The shooters at Columbine were well known. The shooter at Newtown was a former student. These are not situations where we can suppose as school administrators and teachers, and typically the first person would be that school secretary, would be able to look at a person and know whether that person had good intentions or ill intentions on that day. So we know that if a compromise is needed currently in this situation, we compel those in positions of authority to consider that that compromise would be that boards of education could set policy congruent with their community values. And we have heard loudly from the Ann Arbor community. And in fact, trustees, I believe in all of my time, we've never heard our community speak more loudly than they have on this particular issue. So I heard today, and I've heard over recent days, a very troubling reference to our public schools as government schools. They are not government schools. They are our community schools. These are our children, our public schools, our classrooms. And I just want to reach out and thank our community for all of their support. I've heard from literally hundreds and will not be able to answer all of those emails, but just know how much we appreciate your support. We do not know the next steps following this hearing today, but we will be certain to communicate those as they become public or as we are aware of them. And so trustees and community, I just wanted to offer that follow-up, that update. I'm very grateful and proud for this beautiful group that was able to join us, but we know there were thousands back here in Ann Arbor watching on live stream, watching Twitter, and all of the updates that came out of our hearing today. Thank you, Madam President and trustees.
All right. Thank you, trustees. Thank you, Dr. Swift, for that update. That was very good.
Thank you.